Hello, and welcome to our lesson on legal and contractual management. This segment will cover elements of a contract. While specific contracts used by supply managers may vary in wording and details, those employed in purchasing products and services generally follow standardized structures with common attributes. These attributes, initially set by a firm's legal counsel, are then tailored for different suppliers, products, and services. Contracts serve to establish the terms and conditions for conducting business, defining the nature of the relationship, and ensuring mutual benefits for both parties. It's crucial to invest time in negotiations to ensure clarity on terminology, measures, and requirements. Clear understanding from both parties reduces the likelihood of future problems or misunderstandings. Renegotiating contractual terms post-signing becomes significantly more challenging over time. Contracts are akin to human relationships and marriage vows. It's prudent to define expectations early rather than attempting to clarify them after commitments are made. A contract typically begins with an introduction of the parties who will be engaged in the contract. For example, it might start with this. After the introduction, the contract consists of numbered sections, clauses, outlining the agreed conditions for the business relationship. These clauses may reference accompanying schedules found typically in the appendices, which detail specifics like manufacturing methods, statement of work, metrics, pricing, and safety requirements. The schedules are crucial as they contain the operational details, for example, pricing, quality standards, with clear metrics and deliverables. Well-detailed schedules minimize conflicts. The example provided illustrates a contract between a large corporation and a mid-sized supplier, showcasing typical contract structures. Variations exist, but this structure is common in supply management negotiations. Details of contract. This section clarifies key terms in the contract to prevent confusion later on. It includes definitions for essential terms like product service descriptions, raw materials, purchase orders, POs, on-time delivery, and pricing, ensuring clarity for all parties involved. Scope of agreement. This section defines what is in and out of scope. This might include geographical limitations, the validity or invalidity of prior contracts, preferential treatment by the supplier, or other elements. Purchase orders. This section clarifies the connection between the agreement and any subsequent purchase orders issued by the company to the supplier. For instance, it may specify that any purchase order for products from a buyer affiliate during the agreement's term is subject to the terms outlined in the agreement. It also addresses procedures for order cancellations and resolving conflicts between purchase orders and the agreement, determining which document takes precedence. Supply and delivery. This clause specifies the terms for the supply and delivery of the product or service. It includes details such as the specified lead time between order and delivery, consequences for delayed delivery, and any supplementary information in the attached appendices covering delivery metrics, timeliness criteria, penalties for tardiness, and other relevant particulars. Specifications. This section outlines manufacturing methods, quality standards, and may include specific quality terms. For example, products must comply with relevant laws and international standards. Charges for substandard products or services are detailed in the appendix. Service details, including scope and quality expectations, are provided in a statement of work. Safety, health, and environmental standards expectations from the supplier are also specified. Payment. This section outlines pricing terms, including adjustments based on factors like current and prior prices. The frequency of price changes and any associated indices are detailed in an appendix schedule. Liability. This clause typically addresses responsibility for losses, damages, and expenses stemming from the agreement or purchase orders. It often requires the supplier to fully indemnify and protect the buyer and its affiliates against such liabilities. This may entail insurance provisions and management of sub-supplier issues as they arise. Force majeure. This clause addresses unforeseen events like earthquakes or hurricanes that hinder a supplier from meeting its obligations. It typically requires the affected party to promptly inform the other party and make reasonable efforts to resolve the situation. Effective date and termination. This section outlines the contract's start and end dates, extension conditions, termination rights, and notice requirements. Intellectual property ownership. This section determines the conditions regarding the ownership of any intellectual property, IP, resulting from or contributed to the agreement, including provisions for ownership of residual IP generated from innovations within the agreement. Assignment and subcontracting. This clause outlines the supplier's ability to transfer their rights under the agreement to another party and whether subcontracting is allowed. Technology improvements. If the buyer becomes aware of any technology or cost improvements of other products in the market, this section may specify whether they can share this information with the supplier and how the supplier should act on it. Most favored customer. This clause determines if the buyer will receive priority treatment over other clients. However, its enforcement and measurement pose challenges, leading to infrequent implementation. Confidentiality. This clause ensures that all information, technology, and so on shared between the parties remains confidential and is not shared with other customers or suppliers. Statistics. This section outlines the specific statistics and measures that the supplier must regularly provide to the buyer with clear definitions. Further specifics may be included in an appendix schedule. Key performance indicators and compensation. This section outlines how the supplier's performance will be assessed and specifies any compensatory measures in case of performance deficiencies. For instance, failure to maintain a delivery rate above 90% may incur penalties for the supplier. Notices specifies recipient addresses for bills, invoices, and other documents, along with designated contacts for inquiries and issues. Severability. This section outlines how void or unenforceable portions of the agreement will be handled and designates the applicable court for dispute resolution. Third-party rights. This section ensures that any benefits designated for a third party outlined in the contract are upheld. For instance, if a bank facilitates transactions between the buyer and supplier and charges a fee, both parties must adhere to the agreed-upon terms regarding payment of that fee. Free trade areas. This clause identifies any free trade issues and benefits and how to share the benefits. Minority or women-owned business enterprises. This clause stipulates that the supplier commits to supporting minority and women-owned business enterprises, MWBE, either through purchasing efforts or by allocating a specific percentage of its business to MWBE enterprises. Governing law. This clause stipulates the court of law where any disputes will be settled. This clause contains language such as mandatory application of local law or a statement to the contrary in the relevant purchase order, which is agreed upon by the supplier, shall be exclusively governed by the laws of England. This clause may also stipulate the use of arbitration or other forms of conflict resolution. Signatures. In witness whereof, this agreement has been executed by the parties the day and year first written before. It's a standard phrase often used at the end of legal agreements. An example of schedules that may be used in the appendices include the following. This is the end of this segment of our lesson. In the next segment, we shall discuss the scope of contract management. This course is presented to you by South Europe College. Thank you for listening, and see you on our next segment.